In today's video, I'm going to be discussing Webull stock, and we're going to be comparing it side by side to Robinhood since they are very, very similar. They both are trading platforms, and they both pretty much offer all the same services. The biggest difference is that Robinhood is seeing substantial growth, where Webull is not quite there yet. So, in this video, we're going to touch on all the fundamentals. As I mentioned, we're going to be comparing those fundamentals with Robinhood's fundamentals. And then, of course, we'll look at the technicals and we'll go over some trade ideas and overall try to decide whether or not Webull is a good buying opportunity. So, if you enjoy content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel and like this video, and let's hop right into it. Okay, so first things first. If you're unaware of what Webull and Robinhood are, which if you don't really know, then you're probably living under a rock, but both Webull and Robinhood are trading platforms, right? They're app-based, and they both offer desktop versions as well. You can see here that Robinhood was founded in 2013, where Webull didn't join the party until 2018. So Webull's a little bit behind, and that's one reason why this stock is kind of catching my attention, because again, Robinhood is seeing substantial growth right now. I mean, it has been skyrocketing. It actually just got added to the S&P 500. I mean, it's just a really, really bullish stock. And honestly, we can also look at SoFi as well, because, you know, they introduced trading along with their banking and investing. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, SoFi has been so bullish, because, you know, they're offering, you know, a trading platform as well. So when you have already your traditional banking and then you're adding, you know, the same services that, let's say, a Robinhood offers, like, I can see why people are so bullish on SoFi. But back to Webull, you know, both of these platforms are commission free. They both offer all the same things pretty much, right? So you can see they have ETFs, they have options, cryptocurrency, which Webull just recently, reintegrated their cryptocurrency trading back into their original platform, which I was super excited about. And in my opinion, I think this is going to drive a little bit more growth and help them become more profitable. And then they also just, you know, introduce future trading and a bunch of other things, right? So this is the biggest difference between these two apps, in my opinion, because I've used them both. I am a sole user of Webull. All the videos that I do and all the technicals that I'm running, that's on the Webull platform. I'll leave a link in the description down below if it's something you want to test out. But, you know, Robinhood's cool too. It's good for beginners, right? It's not very advanced when you're looking at like charting and the different tools that they offer. It's simply like buy a stock, sell a stock, like very good for that. Just very, very user friendly. And Webull is too. But in my opinion, Webull just offers like a ton more value. You know, you can start as a beginner investor where you're just learning the ropes, and maybe a Robinhood's good, right? But Webull can be good for beginners as well, but you can grow into their platform, in my opinion. And let's say you become someone that's like, you know, you want to start looking at more of like the technicals and drawing out, you know, charting and, you know, just again, get more analytical and more deep into analyzing stocks. Webull's the app for that, in my opinion. And you know, that's where I can see, as trading becomes more and more popular, I can see people start, you know, leaving Robinhood and, you know, coming to Webull to get that, you know, more advanced, you know, charting that's available there, right? And still get the 0% commission. You know, Webull also offers the same thing, like the high yields and this and that for your cash. And again, I mean, these are like apples to apples, whatever you want to call it, right? I mean, they're very, very similar. The biggest difference is Webull is just lagging behind a lot right now. So let's jump into the fundamentals. I just wanted to give a little overview of what we're working with here. So first things first here, we have total revenues. That's usually where I start. You can see the differences here, right? We have Robinhood and then we have Webull in the orange. You know, there's not much of a comparison here, but one thing, again, I want to note, looks like they're starting to trend up here, okay? But they have a long ways to go, okay? And I know they've been making some investments in, like, you know, the prediction markets and this and that. And so, you know, these are things that should increase revenue over time. And I feel, again, since Webull, you know, wasn't founded until 2018, they're about 5 years behind Robinhood, right? Like, Robinhood just started seeing massive growth within like the last year or so. Like, it wasn't long ago I was trading a stock at like $23. Now it's at like 150 or something, right? I mean, it's way up there. So again, it's like, in my opinion, like when we're comparing these numbers, I'm like, just thinking in my head, and I'm like, I don't see why Webull can't start, capturing some of that market share as they grow in and grow as a company, right? So next, let's look at the net income. Arguably one of the most important things, right? You want to be making money. This is interesting, right? Because again, I mentioned that Robinhood really just started becoming profitable and really like skyrocketing in terms of the stock recently. And we can see here, obviously, we just started trading not long ago on the markets. And so, we don't have as much data here, but what I'm really trying to see here is like, where did Robinhood come from and where's it at now, right? Net income, none. Like they were just negative, negative, negative for, the longest time. And you can see here, Webull, right? We actually had a couple positive quarters and then negative, negative, positive, negative, right? So at the end of the day, though, like look at some of these negative numbers and net incomes. I don't know. It's possible they just had some investments or something they did that quarter and that kind of, ate into the net income. But nonetheless, though, right? It went through a slump before it started taking off. And you can even see here that, we had a really big quarter here and then it kind of dropped back off. Okay, so I think this was an interesting comparison here. Again, Webull, nothing really impressive here as we're not quite profitable yet, but it just feels like they're getting ready to turn a corner. And obviously that's good and exciting news. All right, so next I wanted to pull up Webull's total revenue net income again, but with this one I can do the projections, or at least what analysts are projecting this company to grow to, right, in the future. So you can see here, we're looking at December 27th, so about, a year or so from now. But nonetheless, like this is the trend I want to see. Like they're expecting the company to continue to grow, and this is pretty substantial right here. This is a good bit of growth right here, and the net income is expected to grow as well. So that looks good. Again, these are just projections and expectations of analysts. Anything can happen, but nonetheless, like they're projecting the company to grow, and they have a trend here. It looks like, and again, it looks like we're just close to turning the corner to really ramping up based off of, these data points. All right, so moving on, we have the free cash flow. Another one I really like to look at comparing to Robinhood. There's nothing really super impressive here with Robinhood, in my opinion. We have a bunch of free cash flow and then negative free cash flow, right? Like a big negative free cash flow, and then a bunch, and then negative, and then a little bit, and then right? Just up and down, up and down, up and down. And then you got Webull. That's just, they have some cash on hand, right? Not a ton, but I don't see any negative quarters here. And again, we don't have a lot of data to go back to. But nonetheless, like I'm just doing this as a comparison, and I don't see much. Like, okay, yes, obviously, like these numbers are huge, right? Like that's big. Maybe Robinhood's obviously like turning the corner massively right now. But based off of previous, quarters and whatnot, it seems like we could just drop down out of nowhere. And I wouldn't be surprised. But again, Robinhood's been around longer, which is important because, it takes time to grow a user base and to grow brand awareness and, to enter into different segments, when it comes to a trading platform, because there's so many different ways to trade. If you weren't aware, right? You have options, you have ETFs, you have stocks, you have futures, you have cryptocurrency. It's just like there's so many different options, right? And it takes time to enter into these markets and, to just grow your brand awareness. But again, just comparing this, like, yes, obviously now Robinhood is superior, but it wasn't but just, a couple quarters ago where they were negative. So this seems very cyclical, I guess you could say. But again, I don't see any really big downturns of Webull. So that's not a bad thing there. All right, so moving on to the balance sheets. Just going to go through these real quick. Robinhood's balance sheet looks good. Biggest thing is here is that we have more assets than total liabilities. We're running pretty close, but nonetheless, it doesn't look too bad here. And obviously with that free cash flow that we just saw from, that last slide, they seem like they're in pretty good shape when it comes to financials. And then same thing here with Webull. Now, obviously, the numbers are a lot different. This is in millions. And, so 30 compared to, 2,300, yes, Webull has a long way to go. But that's kind of why I'm excited too, because I feel like they haven't hit their growth yet, right? But the question is, will they ever, right? And I think that's kind of where some of the skepticism comes in. But balance sheets don't look bad for both companies. And again, I think the main thing I'm looking at here is that they just look identical almost, right? The amount of assets and liabilities that they're holding Very, very similar. Okay, so this is interesting. I always like to bring this up just in regards to like, supply and demand, right? Like the more shares that are on the market, the more diluted the stock gets, right? And the less shares, then the less diluted, and also the faster the stock can move as well, right? Like when you don't have a big float, like a lot of shares outstanding, and investors start seeing some momentum and they hop in, like the stock it moves a lot faster when it doesn't have a lot of shares. But yeah, so for example, like Robinhood, you can see that they didn't have a lot of shares outstanding at first, and usually what happens is like once this company starts taking off and the share price gets pretty high, they'll do like a public offering where they'll say, hey, we're gonna sell this many shares onto the market. This helps them raise capital, right? But it also dilutes shareholders' equity. This can be looked as a positive and a negative, right? So a positive as they raise capital, they use that capital, they reinvest it into the company, and then actually makes you as an investor more money in the future, right? And then there's the other scenario where they're just diluting shares, raising capital just to pay the bills, right? Where maybe there's like stress or financial stress and they need the money. So there's a couple different ways to look at it, but if they're taking that money and they're using it correctly, it can be a good thing. But usually when you see the news come out that a company is going to, offer shares onto a public market, the stock crashes. I mean, it's simple, supply and demand. They're adding more shares. That's going to just lower the price immediately. But still pretty interesting. And obviously, I think we can expect Webull probably to have another public offering. I would not be surprised, again, following suit. Or it probably won't be until we see an increase in the stock price. Just keep that in mind, though, because when we're going over the technicals and you're looking at like a day trade or something, that's important to know. Because although I do like this company for a long-term hold, it could rip up and then they do a public offering and then boop, right back down. And that could just be hey, sell the rip, buy back into the dip. All right, so the next slide we have here is the market cap. And the main reason why I'm bringing this up is just to see the potential for Webull stock, right? And that's assuming that they can execute and start growing, right? But the biggest thing is that, we have Robinhood that is, the market cap is just skyrocketed, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, why can't, Webull grow their market cap just to even, 50 million or 75 million, right? Like it doesn't have to be the next Robinhood when it comes to growth, I guess. But even if it just got up to here, that's like substantial growth. Now for example, for Robinhood to grow like the double, right? Now they would have to go to 240, million, right? Or billion, whatever that is. Vice versa for Webull to double in market cap or stock price, however you want to look at it, right? Assuming everything stays equal, all they would have to do is just get up to like 10, 20, 30. Like, you get what I'm saying, right? It seems like they're not even anywhere near their growth phase yet. And it just seems like they have a lot of opportunity for growth if they can execute and, figure out a way to really start turning their active users into paying customers, right? And there are some few things that they're doing. Like, for example, they just integrated something like Robinhood does, where you can now, pay a monthly fee to be a premium member, right? And you get some premium benefits for that, which is pretty cool, like a higher cash yield and lower margin rates and just cool things like that, right? Like level 2 data and whatnot. And it's pretty cheap. Like, it's just an easy money. And this is something they just started, right? So like, we're not seeing the revenue from that yet. I promise you. I've been using Webull for a long time now, and like they're constantly updating the app, adding new features, adding this, adding that, and that's one thing I love, right? So they're trying, right? We just need to get the brand awareness up, I feel like. All right, so moving on, we have return on invested capital. Obviously, Webull's not looking too good here. It's negative. We're not making money yet, right? I mean, obviously, but again, I just want to compare it. We are 5 years behind where Robinhood was, right? So if we just look back, let's say 4 years, right? 3 years even. Look at that. I mean, return on your investment, negative 28, 24, 20, right? And then we see this trend back up. But again, comparing this to Webull, it's not much difference, right? I mean, they're kind of going through this little slump right here like they were going through here, right? And now we look like we're kind of trending back up. I mean, yes, we're coming down a little bit, but we'll see. Obviously, next earnings report will be pretty substantial for this company. But comparing apples to apples, I just don't see much difference here, right? I see a trend. I see that, Robinhood was struggling for a little bit and they figured it out, right? And now it looks like Webull is just kind of right behind that curve before they figure it out. I don't know. You let me know what you think in the comments. I always want to know your opinions as well, because I'm not perfect. I mean, I'm just giving you my thoughts, right? I mean, you might know something I don't know. You might have done more research than I've done. Whatever it is, like, let's put our minds together and make some money. But moving on to the next chart, we have net profit margins. Okay, again, nothing too crazy here. Obviously, if Webull's not profitable yet, they have some profitable quarters. But with them just being barely profitable, obviously, their net profit margins are negative. And you can see here, again, I just want to go back and look at kind of this trend when, Robinhood was, look at this, man. I mean, net profit, negative 360. Like, this doesn't look pretty, but golly, man, like, I'm sure during this time, right, like, everyone was probably like, do not buy Robinhood stock. Like, this is why, right? Kind of like what you're seeing with Webull now. But, in my opinion, Webull is not as high as what, Robinhood's showing now. I mean, you can see this growth, and that's why we're seeing the stock skyrocket. So this is, obviously, we want to see Webull turn the corner. But again, in my opinion, it seems like we're maybe getting in at the, the beginning phases, right? Like, we're getting in to Webull where Robinhood was back here, right? Like 15 to 20 bucks. Not even, like 10 bucks at one point, right? Like, that's kind of where we're at right now with Webull. All right, so moving on real quick, and this is just the different segments that Robinhood's making money from. I can't bring this up on Webull. The data's not available right now, so that's the only reason why I didn't. But still, the biggest thing I want to mention here, right, is look at the revenues from cryptocurrency, right? Like, there's a good bit of revenue from that. And again, Webull just reintroduced cryptocurrency to their trading platform. So I think this is going to help them grow a lot more. And then look at this. I mean, options, that's where they're making the most money, which I guess makes sense because everyone's going YOLO, getting like weekly options, and then they expire worthless. And then, that's probably all profit. I'm not sure how that works. But nonetheless, I just wanted to bring this up because this is where the money's being made. And again, Webull was without, or they kind of had it, right? They had cryptocurrency trading on their Webull Pay app, but it was weird how it worked, and I feel like it probably took a lot of people away from it. And now that it's all back in one app, I think it's really going to help them grow their cryptocurrency presence, because before it was almost as if like Webull didn't offer cryptocurrency. And you can see that's a big portion of profits there. Real quick, I want to jump into the PE ratios. This is a little harder to see right now because, again, Webull hasn't been trading much, and they aren't profitable yet, but they are projected to be profitable. So, they are giving us a forward PE or price to earnings. And you can see here, okay, that Robinhood typically trades around a 60. Okay, let's see, 45, 50, 50, 60. And granted, we have Webull that is trading at an 84 price earning right now. And so, comparing that to Robinhood, yes, that doesn't seem too juicy to me. But I think the biggest difference is here, right, is all that would have to happen is Webull to have like a really good quarter, right, where like all of a sudden, like, again, for them to double their profitability is not out of the question, right? Because comparing it to Robinhood, like, it's like their numbers are so small, right? It's like if I'm making $10 an hour, for me to go make $20 an hour, like, that's probably not too hard, right? But for me to make $40 an hour, maybe that's a little bit more difficult. And then if I were to make $80 an hour, right, that's even harder. And then 160, you get what I'm saying, right? It's going to be easier for them to double their revenues when their revenues are only, let's say, 1 million to 2 million compared to growing revenues from 5 million to 10 million, right? So that's, I guess, the silver lining, but nonetheless, Webull is trading at a pretty high premium, but growth stocks typically do. At the end of the day, though, we're not too far off from where Robinhood is trading. All right, so before we jump into the technicals and I go over some trade ideas, which I promise we're getting right into it, I just want to mention, this is another thing, is that when it comes to funded accounts, right, Robinhood has 25.2 million at the end of 2024, this data is a little lagging, but still, let's just, for comparison purposes. And then at that time, Webull had 4.7 million, and they report these differently. That's why it's kind of hard to pull this. But this was interesting though. Webull has 64 million global users, right? But this is the thing, is that they are not all funded, but their global presence is so much more than Robinhood. And so I feel there's so much more potential there, but they need to find a way to take those people that are, registered users or, using the platform and turn them into like funded accounts, right? Like that's what they need to try to do. But a lot of potential there. And, the biggest thing is though, is that they need to grow their funded accounts, right? The amount of funded accounts they have, they need to grow that. And I think the best way to do that is just brand awareness, right? Like start doing some marketing. All right, so moving on to the technicals. All right, the good stuff. Let's see how we can make some money. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. Right now, I have Webull stock pulled up here. I'm just looking at the daily right now. This is when they went public. This was some euphoria. This was insane. I'm not really sure what was going on there. But when we zoom in a little bit at the 4 hour, you can see the last support that we had was right around this level, okay? And so if we bounce here, which I'm pretty confident we're going to, this is like a double bottom, and or we are kind of making a higher low here, right? So 818 was a low, and now it looks like our low here was 1053, so, we're bouncing. In my opinion, it seems like we're making a higher low, and this is pretty bullish. When it comes to a trade idea, this to me is a perfect reversal, okay? We have the sell-off. We had the consolidation right around this support level. And then guess what? Just today, we broke above the 4 hour moving average. That is confirmation of a reversal, okay? You can see here, right? We can't break above. We can't break above. We can't get above. We can't get above. We just, every time we hit that blue line or green line, right, we just get rejected. And guess what? Boom. Broke it today, okay? That's confirmation. So, in my opinion, if you're looking to take a trade, okay, and this is not financial advice, you obviously do your own due diligence and you make your own decisions, right? Do not copy what I'm doing. But if you were thinking about taking a trade, let's zoom in a little bit more, right? You can see here that we just broke above and now we are reaching the 300-day moving average. But what I would look for, okay, is a kind of a rejection off of this, right? Back down to, this moving average and a break. So we break and then a retest, right? Those are the best, right? In my opinion, because it's just, if it breaks and then retests and then goes and makes a higher low, pretty confident it's going. Where if, let's say you took a position right here, yes, there's a chance this thing keeps on going. But then there's also a chance that, it does get rejected and it goes back down here to retest some of these levels, okay? So that's what I would be looking for, a break and a retest, right? Let's zoom in a little bit more, get a little bit clearer. Okay, again, look at this. I mean, this is beautiful, all right? This really paints a better picture, zooming in a little bit more, because you can see this, this sell-off, right? And you see how we're flattening out, right? Like we're not really making any lower lows, right? We kind of dipped down here. That was probably that like liquidity sweep, kind of testing this bottom right here. And then, we bounced right back up. And now look, we're above these moving averages for the first time. All right, in a long time, right? So again, looking at the more zoomed in picture, I would look for, again, you could take a position here. You do what you want, right? There's a good chance the stock could keep going. But if it were to fall back down to here and retest this level, this would be a great spot to take a position, right? And then go ahead and put your stop loss right under there, right? Boom. Manage your risk. You have so much more upside than downside here. Let me just draw it out real quick. Let's see. So in this scenario, if you wait it for the retest, okay, it'd be about a 6% downside, which on a stock like this, that's nothing, right? Just keep that in mind. This is a higher volatility stock. So think about what your risk, tolerance is. But let's just say we even went back up to the moving average, which is not that far. That's a 15% return. So not bad. And then obviously, you could hold it up to these levels too. And again, the risk to reward is just, in my opinion, is good. But obviously, depending on your risk tolerance, you want to make sure that you're managing your risk. So, the first place that I would be looking to take profits, assuming this just keeps going up, would be right around these moving averages. All right. Because I would expect to probably get rejected off of them and then, possibly keep continuing up. But that would be the first area that I would look to take profits. And then obviously up here would be my next area. Probably closer to like here. There's a lot of support, a lot of resistance here. I mean, you know what I mean? Like we just got rejected, and you see when we broke that level before, like whoo, just way down there, right back up to it. So this would be a level that I would definitely be taking profits at, unless you want to just hold this thing for the long term. And I'm not saying that that's a bad option, right? I'm just giving you ideas. So you either have like a quicker trade where you could, this could rip up here on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, take your profits, get out, or you could do a swing trade, try to wait it out a little bit longer. Then you could just buy and hold and hope it turns into a Robinhood as well. And in my opinion, I think 2-3 years from now, it very well could. But I think it's probably going to be a roller coaster of a ride in the meantime. But with that being said, again, I am using the Webull platform now. I love this platform. I think it looks really cool. This is the dark theme. They also have a lighter version as well. Just a bunch of different options when it comes to Webull. Their charting is awesome, and like just their charts in general. Like I'm really picky with charts. And some of these apps, like for example, Robinhood, like I cannot trade on Robinhood, like a day trade or something like that. Like the charts, just I can't do it. They're ugly. I don't like them. My favorites are Webull and then Thinkorswim actually, are two charting platforms that I really like. And then honestly, TradingView has some pretty good charts as well. But in my opinion, I think Webull is superior to Robinhood just when it comes to what I prefer to trade on, right? Like I would rather trade on Webull 100 times over Robinhood, in my opinion. But that's not to say that Robinhood, they have the brand awareness, right? They're growing their brand, they're growing their company, and they're getting all the new investors. Like the people have no idea what they're doing. They don't even know what charting is or day trading or moving averages. Like they don't know what it is. They could care less what it is. That's your Robinhood users, right? And that's a lot of people, okay? Because to a lot of people, the Webull app maybe is too complex. But at the same time, it doesn't have to be. In my opinion, I do feel that Webull stock is a good opportunity right now where it's trading at, especially just breaking above those moving averages, showing signs of a reversal. This is possibly an opportunity to get in and just ride the momentum right back up. But again, there's always risks to every company, and we never know what's going to happen with the markets. They could just fall off a cliff tomorrow. So obviously have your risk management in place. But I hope you guys found this video helpful. Please let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Subscribe to the channel if you're still here and like this video, and I'll see you in the next one.